Welcome to The Rivals. As part of a breath of fresh footy, we have Pete over here and myself, and we're going to go straight into this weekend's results in the EPL because it was absolutely smashing. And I'm sure we're going to get into a few of the more fascinating things that have happened in the last 24 hours. So if you haven't heard, and we'll go straight into this topic, that Thiago from Liverpool has contracted coronavirus. And I heard this from At The Net. So remember to subscribe to At The Net on Facebook and push a subscribe button on YouTube for a breath of fresh footy. And I'll let Pete go straight into this sort of this thing that's happened. So Pete, thanks for joining us. And I can't wait to hear more info on this topic.
G'day, Matty. Well, it's been absolutely amazing just in the last 24 hours, as you've just alluded to. Thiago from Liverpool, the defender, he's actually being now diagnosed with COVID-19. So it means he will miss the Aston Villa game. Right. Now, look, personally, I don't think there's really any problem there for them. However, I know there is a meeting coming up with all the chiefs throughout the EPL, which will probably be in the next 24 hours in London. And if it gets out of control in the UK, if the EPL has to go put another stop to it, how is the season going to finish? So they're fundamentally meeting on how the season will finish if they get stopped again. Big news, big news.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there a chance with this sort of news that they'll do something like what they've done with the AFL? They'll have a bubble and then they might have to fly to different places maybe, or even go up to Scotland and play some of their games up there. What are the thought processes behind this? I mean, there has to be a solution because if the EPL goes down again, that's a monumental disaster, I think.
Oh, look, it is. Well, I mean, this is why they're obviously meeting. They're meeting to actually thrash out how they can actually get past all this, how they can even keep the games going in a bubble. It may get to the stage where literally you have just got the main officials of the game in a stadium, the players, the managers, and that is it. Assistants and that may not be able to get in there. I don't. Who knows? Will they go and play in Scotland? Will they keep doing the bubbles? They'll have to, I think, especially for the European Championship, for the league, for Europa, they're going to have to continue to do that. The numbers are too high at the moment. So I reckon in the next 24 hours, Matty, we will know the decision, exactly what's going on, who's going to be where, how it's all going to pan out. Because, I mean, don't forget, you've got not only the Premier League, but you've got the Championship as well, just underneath. You got the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup. There is so much here. And okay, you look at the money that Chelsea have spent. I mean, gee, we'll get to that one very soon. Oh, God, Frank's an unhappy boy in town today.
And we were saying this, and we'll lead into Chelsea and a few of the other games over the weekend. But it's going to be fascinating seeing what they do with how they're going to control COVID. I mean, surely in the UK, I don't know the numbers myself, but surely there are regions that are much less with COVID numbers than other regions. I mean, we always hear the UK number itself. We don't know exactly what the regions are going like. It's just like here in Australia, all the different states and all the different towns have all different COVID numbers. So surely there can definitely be a solution for that sort of stuff. But getting into the games, there were 3 games that I wanted to concentrate on, but you've gone to the crux one. I reckon Chelsea's results on the weekend against West Brom 3-3. They were very fortunate to get away with that result. And also Carabao Cup, they're out of it. So, more to your thoughts of Frankie Lampard.
Well, I can tell you now, and it's funny, and I've made this comment as well, because it does take time for a side to gel. It takes time for them to get together. Remember, none of these guys have played before, and you've almost replaced the starting 11 with a brand new 11. That's what you're fundamentally doing here. So, they're not going to, where are they going to end up this year? God knows, really. I think everything's gone a bit topsy-turvy. However, what it means for Chelsea, though, silverware, Carabao Cup, it's gone. Jose Mourinho. Well, Tottenham. Hey, don't forget, he's got a habit of this. He's got a habit of this. So if you go look at it right now, as we stand in the quarterfinals, Tottenham's already there. Yeah. Tottenham are there. Yeah. And, we'll go over some of the games that are still got to go in this because it's going to be quite phenomenal. There's some great games coming up.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's go and focus on the games from last weekend, mate.
Absolutely. But I think what's fascinating about the Carabao Cup is that Liverpool and Arsenal, they're going to play soon. So that's another top team that's going to go out, whatever happens. I think, Tottenham might have a chance, but boy, they really need to win some silverware because if they don't win anything this year, I can't see Mourinho staying at Tottenham at all because he was brought there to win silverware. So, but again, very fortunate, I thought, to win on penalties. I mean, penalties is like a lottery, isn't it? 5-4. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
It's pretty there, but it's just random,
Mason Mount was the one that missed it.
Yeah.
And it was actually interesting because one of his goal on the weekend was in my, it was one of my goals of the week that ended up going to James Maddison of Leicester City.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because that was an absolute cracking goal.
Oh, yes.
And the amazing part about that was Mason Mount's goal was just fantastic. But to miss that penalty, well, look, it happens. It happens. And I actually personally, my own opinion, I think it sucks. Penalties suck. They just do.
Yeah. Well,
I reckon you could play another 15 minutes and keep going 15 minutes until they're so tired.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, but that's the Carabao Cup, isn't it? The only time they play extra time is from the quarterfinals or the semi-finals onwards. That's how the Cup's always been. That's how it was set up. And so when you finish that full time and you don't get a result, it goes straight to penalties. And that's what makes it a hard Cup because you could play the best game of your life, right? But it could still be 0-0 or 1-1 and you can still lose. That's why I think it means a lot. And also, it guarantees the winner of that competition is guaranteed European football. So they get into the Europa League. That's why I always say to my colleague, Phil, he always goes, the Europa League's a bit of a banter league. It sort of is, but then clubs really need to get into Europe to get that extra spending money. You know what I mean? So
look, exactly. And it is important because you know what? 9 times out of 10, whoever wins the Carabao Cup, they won't win any other trophy for the year, which means at least they've got a piece of silverware. Yeah. But let's have a look. I mean, the 4th round, there's still a lot to play. Hey, guess what? I'll just put this one out there. Newport County, they're in Division 4. They're up against Newcastle United, and bless them. Yeah. God bless them. I would love them to actually beat Newcastle and go into the quarters. I reckon that would be absolutely hilarious. It'd be lovely to see. I don't know if you agree, but it would be nice.
I'd love to see it too. But this is why it's such an important cup because teams from the 4th division, because this cup goes all 4 divisions, right? And the FA Cup is 12. And why these cups are really important is that anybody basically in England can get into Europe. And I mean, if a 6-tier club got into the final and won an FA Cup, just say it, hands down. The amount of money that would be, because it's at least $15, $20 million, £20 million worth of money going into the group stages and stuff. That money is just so important during these times. So I think that's why.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The cup is really, really important. But I want to go back to the EPL because I thought Chelsea was very, very, very poor against West Brom. And I really thought West Brom deserved basically to win that game. They took their chances. They broke on the counter-attack. I thought they played a phenomenal game.
Yeah, look, and I completely agree with you. That first half by West Brom, they would have given any team an absolute kicking in that first half. Unfortunately, it's like everything, as you'd know, Matty. That second half comes in. Whatever Frank said to Chelsea, well, I tell you what, they came out and they really they stepped it up. They took a few more risks and they got their, a deserved point. you know, I must admit, though, it's Timo Werner. Yeah, look, he's been very, very quiet for the first three matches, except for the Carabao Cup this morning. He scored his first goal. So will that be a bit of a change now? He's got that debut goal under his belt and actually give Chelsea something that they need. But yeah, look, West Brom, well done. Oh, I tell you what, they played bloody well in that first half.
I really wanted to see them get the win because, for a club that's come up, if they could have got that win against a top 6 team, I reckon that would have done a huge amount of confidence. Having said that, the fact that they didn't lose the game is fabulous. So that's their first point, and they would not have expected to have got a point from Chelsea. So that's a brilliant result for them. But it really puts question marks as to where Chelsea's going to finish, because, I've had them as my 3rd place, but they're not playing fantastic football. Let's see how they go about things. And another team that I thought was very disappointing, your team was extraordinarily fortunate to have got through that game. I love the jacket, by the way. Excellent jacket.
Oh, mate, thank you.
Very, very nice, showing the colours. But you and I were on Messenger, and we were texting through that whole game. And we could not believe how poor Man United were. They were absolutely battered by Brighton. But it just shows you when you hit 5 posters in a game, those 5 posters can really, really haunt you. But this is where we'll start getting into like VAR and all that sort of stuff. So what was your thoughts to the public? Because I know exactly what you think, but the public don't. So what were your thoughts on that game?
Look, my thoughts on that game is Manchester United in the first half, they should have been down. Honestly, they should have been down 4-0. Yeah. They were useless. Lindelof, hey, I tell you what, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, why is he starting Lindelof in the first 11? That is beyond me. Absolutely horrible. Defense, once again, it's a shambles. They're not taking their opportunities. They're slow. They're just slow. Now, if I'm going to be really, really critical, and I will be about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at the moment, here's a guy sitting in the stands watching it on a bloody iPad. What's that about? He's not on the sideline. He's not giving it to them. He's not really getting stuck into them like a good manager should. That concerns me. But that also says to me, here's a guy, a young manager. Has he got the oomph to take it to the next level? And that's probably one of the big questions that I'm starting to hear at the moment. And I've got that question myself. I don't think he does. I really don't think he has really got that guts to take it up a level. I don't think he's got the guts when it comes to the transfer market to actually give it back to the board of Man United. They're not looking good. They just are not looking good. Brighton, on the other hand, look, I'm not going to take anything away from Brighton. They played great football. Really, to only score 2 goals, hit the post 5 times. I mean, that's unfortunate. But you know what? If you're in the Premier League, you need to finish. You need to finish well. You can't afford to keep hitting the posts. No. It's simple as that. And as we know, VAR came into play right it was actually the 98th minute. So the game had just finished. They'd taken the corner. Yeah. Corner's gone in. Nothing happened. The whistle had gone. They appealed for the penalty. Now, under the laws of the game, the ball had come into the actual penalty area. After it went out, right, then the game stopped. Remember, when it hit his arm, it was still in play.
Yeah.
Hence, Fernandez comes in, finishes it off in basically the 100th minute of the game.
But my thoughts are with this game is that should the game have gone for 98 minutes in the first place? I mean, there was only 5 minutes of added time. It seemed like it was very poor refereeing on that end, that the game, I think, went way too long.
I know.
At least 3 minutes too long, in my opinion. So I feel sorry for Brighton in that sense that, I feel like they've been robbed because that they deserve to get a point. However, the laws of the game, as you're saying, is
that's right.
It was a penalty. given the laws of the handball rule, you know, as well. So
Okay, I mean, look, to take myself out of Manchester United for a moment, and someone actually sent me a message this morning, and they had a good laugh because I mean they follow Wolves, so I didn't go back with anything, not yet. But the amazing part about it though is that you know Manchester United. Yep, look, that's a lucky escape. The ref got it wrong. That's plain and simple. But at the end of the day, we got the 3 points. Now that 3 points, that could be something that may get us up there. It may just stifle us or whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we got our 3 points. Brighton, they were just damn unlucky. But redemption, my friend, tomorrow morning can be there for Brighton because they play Man U in the Carabao Cup.
I really think they're going to give you a nice clobbing. Not in terms of scoreboard. I think it's going to be rough because they've got revenge on their mind for sure. That's going to be a brutal game, and I that would be one of the games I would watch in the Carabao Cup because Brighton's playing a pretty decent style of footy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can't see Man United changing within 4 days their style of play. I mean, it's going to take a lot of time. And why I bring up this VAR issue in particular is that we'll go towards the Arsenal and Liverpool game. Should VAR have come in when Mane elbowed Tierney in the face? To me, the more I watch that, the more I think that's a definite red card. I thought that the decision might have been fine on the field, but given what happened with the Manchester United game and people appealing for VAR, surely that was one where if you had looked at VAR and VAR said that was a red card, nobody would complain about it.
Yeah, look, and I completely agree with you there because, I mean, at the end of the day, it's about consistency. Now, yeah, okay, they heard it. Nothing was brought up about it. If it had been, and I'm saying this in no disrespect,
no,
but if that had been a handball, it would have been different.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
but this is the problem, though. You see, there was a spitting image of, I think, 2 seasons ago where Aguero did the same elbow, got a straight red card and was out for 3 weeks. And then the ladder leaders did that and they got away with something there for sure. And they played pretty rough. They played really well. I thought it was an excellent game of footy. And I thought Arsenal did a phenomenal job considering that they were being battered to keep in the game until the 89th minute.
Oh, look, Arsenal, they were in the game. They were in the game. Look, I do believe for you guys, Lacazette he wasted. Yeah. He wasted opportunities. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. You know, when I do watch Liverpool, I can tell you what, right now as we speak, after the next game that we will talk about, Man City, who got absolutely annihilated. But you know, just looking at everything right now, who's going to get close to Liverpool? Who's actually going to beat them?
Well, this is what I'm saying. I think not many teams, but I think if Arsenal would have said at the beginning of when they came back after COVID to have basically beaten them twice and to get beaten 3-1 at Anfield but keep in the game, I would take those 3 results any day of the week because we've beaten them twice. Yeah. I'm not complaining. I mean, everybody's like thinking, oh, it's all over. Oh, Arteta's not doing a good enough job. Oh, we're not doing enough in the transfers. It's a project, you know what I mean?
Yeah, look, absolutely. But let's just break down some of the stats of that game, you know, with Liverpool and Arsenal. Now, you know, okay, 4 shots and 3 of them on target for Arsenal, right? Liverpool, on the other hand, 21 shots with 8 on target. So, you know, possession, 66% to Liverpool, 34. And I know sometimes it doesn't mean that much. Passes, however, 772 to Liverpool, 395 to Arsenal. So really the pass accuracy, which is a big one, which is 88% to 75 respectively. And when we start to put all this together, look, Arsenal did extremely well and defensively, you guys did extremely well. And that is bonus. And that's what I like to see. Even though you didn't win the game, defensively, you did extremely well.
And this is the thing, like where there's still 6 days left in the transfer market. There's huge rumours coming out of London that Hossam is going to definitely leave Lyon. I know that
Yep.
Juventus is in the race for him, but I really think, given that they've already sort of found a replacement for him and that deal's going to go through, I think Hossim's going to come into Arsenal's team. And given that Torreira is in big negotiations with Atletico at the moment, I do
Yeah.
get this feeling that Partey's coming in. I mean, this is the crucial factor of that game. We were completely bossed in the midfield. And as an Arsenal fan, we know that that's our weakness. So that's why the statistics were what they were. There was no doubt in my mind that midfield battle was the reason why everything was the way it was. And we were absolutely battered until Ceballos came on. You know, he added that sort of flair, which was phenomenal. But I mean, Mane had a ripper game. You know, Firmino's just... he just tears everything apart. Van Dijk was on fire. But again, Arsenal proves, you know, they proved that if you can play out of the back line, that's how they scored their goal. They've done it now in 3 games. In 3 games we've played with Liverpool in a row, 3 games they've been able to break that defence. So
I mean, and Mo Salah, mate. Mo Salah, that guy's a genius.
Yeah.
That guy's a genius. And, you know, and there was one slip up. I was watching the highlights, going through it, and there was one slip up. But I tell you what, he collects himself. He holds himself high. And I think, but sometimes, and it came out during that game. Now, Jota was about to go for goal. Salah's run straight in front of him to try and do it, you know, and it's just like he tried to take it on himself. Yeah. Look, like everybody, mate, he will learn from that.
Absolutely. But this is why Arsenal fans sometimes get a bit sick of what they've seen over the last 5 years. I mean, 3 of the goals that we conceded in that game, all 3, were huge mistakes by Hecky B. You know, not being in the right position defensively, not doing the right thing, not being match aware. And I mean, sure, Willian should have been tighter on Robertson. But I mean, for Hecky B to go for that, you know, trying to get the ball instead of being aware that somebody was going to be out the back. That was extraordinarily poor. And that's why I can see why fans are a bit peeved, because I don't think he's playing particularly well. The right back position is extraordinarily important. If you make mistakes, you're going to concede goals from that position. He consistently does it over a number of years. And there's no change. So yes, I do see why people go, why should we trust the process? However, what I saw in that game, I thought David Luiz was on fire. I thought he had a great game.
Yeah.
I thought Holding had a particularly good game. And a lot of people actually bagged Maitland-Niles. But the main reason why we were able to attack on that left-hand side was because he's a big presence and he's able to create this pressure. And he was a main instigator for that first goal, because he can, the Liverpool players are really, really scared of him because he's so good and he's so big. Yet people thought he had a mare. I watched it. I was like, I thought he was doing quite well in that game, you know? So I don't know I must have been watching a different game, but I actually thought he had a reasonable game.
Yeah.
So,
look, I just think at the moment, and it's when you see, that's the thing, when you've only got 1 or 2 players and they're actually having a really great game, but when you've got a whole team having a good game, it makes a marked, massive difference, because you know what? When you've got 11 players out on the pitch and they're actually doing phenomenally well, it doesn't matter if 1 or 2 players have a good game, because you're going to get slammed. Because the ones that aren't doing that well, I tell you what, they really shine.
Yeah, absolutely.
The wrong way.
But this is, and then this is how I'm going to segue into the other games. So Liverpool, whenever they see something that's a little bit weak, their owners now really find ways, and their coaching staff find ways to fill in those gaps. But when we go to Man City, I feel the problem is they've never filled Vincent Kompany's, you know, role. I know Diaz just got signed. He got signed for, I think, £55 million or something like that, which could be a big step into filling that CB position. But that's been a huge weakness of theirs, and I don't think they've filled it. Plus, they have all these players that are injured and out from COVID. They got absolutely battered. However, my goal of the week was Riyad. It was Miraz's.
Well, that was my number 2. Right. Mahrez's goal was number 2, because I watched that one very closely in James Maddison. You know, because you see, you know, this is the fantastic thing is Manchester City, they let it slip. Yeah. They just let it slip, because let's have a look at it. Shots on target. Manchester City, 5 shots on target. But how's this? Right? They had 16 shots altogether. Leicester City, they had 7 shots. How many on goal, you ask? 7 shots on goal. 100% shots on goal. Amazing.
Yeah.
And they got 5 of them in. Once again, yet 2 of them were penalties. Jamie Vardy, hat trick.
Yeah.
But that goal from James Maddison, wow, what an absolute screamer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolute screamer. Yeah, wow. That was absolutely phenomenal. Leicester are playing some very, very good football. I think Vardy, Maddison, definitely up front. Absolutely fantastic. Look, Kasper Schmeichel, he is a very, very good goalkeeper. Obviously, the name says it all. Yeah, but no, they trounced him. Pep Guardiola would have been having a baby.
Oh no, the whole issue though with it was that it really highlights why City didn't win last year's league, and it's defense that lets them down. And to concede 3 penalties in a game, it just shows you the defensive mindedness of that team really, really struggles. They can't cope with the Premier League force. And I mean, Leicester has a great front 3 or front 2, whatever you want to call them. They're pretty good. I think there's other teams that are better. You know, I think Vardy's phenomenal. But, I mean, if you're going to struggle against Leicester, how are you going to cope with, like, an Arsenal forward line? How are you going to even cope with Man United? Because I thought Rashford was phenomenal in that game.
Look, he was.
You won't cope with it, because if you're going to give away penalties to players in Leicester, and I'm not having a go at them, I think they're great, but I still think the top 6 teams have more decent forward lines. I mean, you're going to struggle to win games if you are going to concede 3 penalties in a game at your home ground. You are in big trouble unless you sign things. And the one good thing that I see about them, at least they've tried to rectify that as soon as possible. You know, Pep's gone, our players, they're not good enough. And we need to get somebody in there to try and cope with it. However, if you look at Pep's record, this is an interesting thing that I was watching. So Pep's record in signing CBs, he's always spent a lot of money, right? But generally when he goes into teams, he already has a fantastic centre-back record, you know? So they're star players, you know? You had people like Boateng in Bayern Munich, for example, just as one example, who was originally there. The person that he replaced that person with was a flop. Lasted 1 season, gone.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't see Manchester City's replacements thus far being particularly fantastic. I think Ake could be a great player. I don't think he's really shown very much, though.
And I think one of the biggest misses, and really when David Silva decided to leave, and that's it, to replace him, well, look, honestly, irreplaceable as far as I'm concerned. The maestro, the stalwart of Manchester City, he's finished. They haven't been able to replace him or get anybody close. And the thing is, when you are that well respected in the club, that makes a big, big difference. And he was, all the players looked up to him. So how do they take that next step? Well, they need to work on that. Pep needs to get that next person up. Can they do that? Well, if you look at last weekend's game, 5-2, he's got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. How does he fill the gaps? I mean, the thing with City is for the past 6-7 years, they haven't really had to do very much because they've had such a talented squad. They haven't had to rotate very much. So this is going to be the key factor. And so during this process, when he's trying to change things, can he keep them up in the top 4? Can he keep them playing Champions League football? Because we know, our clubs know very, very well, if you're off the boil and you finish 5th in one season, it is bloody hard to get back into Champions League football because the money that you lose is huge. It's at least 60-something million, and we've been struggling ever since to get back in there, you know? So,
I mean, look, you're absolutely spot on. I just currently looking at it and the way the season's going to be structured, let's hope there's no breaking in the season this year because of COVID-19. But still, all the games have now been condensed because they want to make sure they try and finish the season. So with that, you know, there's going to be some weeks they're going to be playing, you know, 3 games plus a week.
Same.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and you really start to look at it, and I keep saying it, the depth of a side. You know, you look at the depth of a side. Are they going to be able to back up? It's going to be fascinating. I'm not convinced there's any bright spark of a team out there that's just going to win it hands down. I think we're going to see lots of upsets. We're going to see, you know, a team to go out and score 90 points for the season. That's not going to happen.
No.
That's not going to happen. I reckon you may have 4 or 5 teams, you know, between 70 and 80 who will be going for that charge for the championship.
But I was saying, any team that only loses 4 to 5 games this season has got to be right up on top, basically.
Yeah.
Because I think if you lose 7 games, you'll easily be in the top 4 this year, in my opinion. So I think if you can get away with 4 losses for the season, I think you've done phenomenally well. You know what I mean? Because it's so even. And this is the thing. For the first time as an Arsenal fan, I actually think we have a reasonable depth in our squad. I mean, sure, we need to fix the midfield a little bit. But, I mean, we beat Leicester with all of our changes very, very comfortably. That was one of the most comfortable games I've watched. And even though we might have been outpossessed on the weekend, I wasn't worried. If you watched the watch-along that I did with my mate Arnie, who's a Liverpool fan, he was more worried about his team kicking the 3rd goal. I was just like, we'll get them on the counter-attack. And we did twice or 3 times in that second half, and we should have scored. And I knew straight away we didn't. That was probably it. But I wasn't worried in the slightest because I didn't feel like we got battered. And that's the squad depth that you're saying. So when we go into this game against them in the Carabao Cup, if the squads change, I actually think we have a pretty reasonable chance because our second squad, which is our sort of academy players, they've all played so much EPL football that know how to play as a team. I reckon they'll give them a big run for their money. You know?
Well, look, and I hope so, and I really hope so. I mean, like Manchester United, they're playing Brighton, and I know you'll get, you know, there'll be a lot more of the academy players coming up. Of course, Van Beek will get a start in that one, but yeah, it's going to be fascinating. You know, I think to sit back and look at you look at some of the other results from the weekend. I mean, Tottenham and Tottenham and Newcastle. We talk about VAR. We talk about handballs. Well, there it is. Tottenham, as far as everyone's concerned, Tottenham's won the game 1-0, and then all of a sudden there's a handball. You know, now it was a straight handball. You couldn't have got that wrong. But then to end up getting a penalty on that one, making it 1-1, well, it's all changing. You know, and then you look at on Monday morning our time when West Ham destroyed Wolves, and they destroyed them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But the thing that I have an issue with the handball rule is that for me, I'm going to disagree. I think it's unfair that if you don't have eyes in the back of your head, right? If you've got your arms like this and you're jumping up because you're trying to get more leverage, and I get that it's not in the natural position, I want to see players being able to jump in the air. And of course, to do that, you use your arm movement to get more momentum to jump up.
That's right.
And get that sort of force to go up. I mean, this is blatantly unfair. If you can't even see the ball and it's behind you and it's struck you, to me, it shouldn't be a penalty. There should be some common sense with the rule. And I get that the way that the rule's interpreted, it's a penalty. But I mean, surely common sense with the handball rule should be applied. And I agree with Roy Hodgson when he said that the game of football is getting destroyed. It should be common sense with the handball. If it's blatantly obvious that they're trying to stop the ball.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's a handball. But if you have no clue what's going on and you're just doing it because it's a natural movement to get you to jump up, why should it be a handball in the first place? And
look, the only thing I can say to that one as well, and the unfortunate part about all this is, they've got to be consistent all year with the same rules, because then see what happens now if they let that relax and they come out and say, okay, no, we're going to change it. We'll go back and okay, but then all of a sudden, Tottenham miss out by 1 point. You know, Brighton have an amazing year. They miss out on 5th spot going into Europa by 1 point. Then those things, you know what I mean? So I think what they have to do, they've got to take this out but they need to move forward after this season and then be consistent, make the rules and say, okay, it needs to be play. If you are the ref, you look at that and say, okay, was that deliberate? No, not deliberate, not a penalty.
Yeah.
Now, yep, you're going to get pundits come out left, right, centre, up, down, wherever they're going to come from, and they're going to absolutely scream. So if they don't get the penalty and they follow your team, well, guess what? It's too bad. The refs made the call.
Yeah.
But they have to be consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. And then this brings me to the next point. Should Jota's strike, his goal, should that have been called off? Because to me, that was very similar to the Tottenham thing, where his arm was sort of in an unnatural position. There's definitely no intent to stop the ball, but it's hit his arm, it's hit his hand. Should that be a handball? Because
I thought it actually hit him on the chest, though.
No. If you have a look at the replay, it hits him right here on the arm.
Okay.
So I think if that's hit him on the arm there, it's pretty conclusive. I think that should have been a handball. So,
look, absolutely, and I agree. And oh God, mate, we could just go on like this forever, couldn't you?
Isn't it so interesting that like there's game within games, the rule changes are changing everything, but it highlights to me one thing. When you watch European football, they've had these rules in for such a long time.
Yeah, that's right.
But then our refs in the EPL, they make it like a farce, you know?
Yeah.
And it comes across as a joke. So obviously there's issues within the umpiring, the refereeing, that's causing such, disharmony within all of the players and the supporter base and the pundits. Surely the FA really need to look at who they've got as refs in these games.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, okay, and see, this is the thing that, and you've always got to be very, very careful with it as well, because I mean, let's say if everybody went out and started really attacking the refs, and what would happen if there weren't enough refs to actually ref the games? And this is where I do look at it and just go, at the end of the day, we have to. Yeah, look, the FA's just got to come out. They need to get together. They need to draw up some rules and say, we need to go through the whole season. This is how it's going to be. Every manager out there, every pundit, they're going to have a list of these rules. Mm-hmm. This is the way it's going to be. So when we go into the season, there's no ill feelings. Everybody knows what's going on. Yep, some people aren't going to be happy, but other people, you just have to understand this is the way it is.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's going to go against you. Other times it's going to go for you.
Yeah.
And that's just, it sucks sometimes. It just sucks.
Absolutely. But what I'm saying is that there needs to be a standard that's adhered through the whole of Europe and the whole of UK.
Yeah, I agree.
And from my observations over 5 or 6 years of Premier League football that I've been watching, for me, the standard of refereeing in the English football has not been fantastic over all the games. And I mean, we're not saying, oh, you guys are awful people. We're just saying, if you're in a professional job and you're doing work as a professional, you need to improve on what you're doing, not stay the same or get worse or get more erratic or get, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the biggest things you're starting to see with VAR at the moment, and this is where I believe it's destroying the game more and more, is the offside rule.
Yeah.
Where that's become an absolute joke, is someone will score a goal, something will happen, and then all of a sudden they go and they check, was he offside? And I've seen a couple of them, and it's just, are you kidding me? To where you'd be lucky to have a millimetre. I reckon you'd be lucky to have a millimetre, and it just goes, no goal. And they walk back and go, are you serious? And I know why you get your Jose Mourinho's and co who jump up and down and say, come on, guys, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. But also what I really dislike about VAR is that the lines people, they're not automatic with their decisions. So It needs to be like, as soon as it happens, you don't want to waste the energy of the players by making them play on for 20 seconds and then, it's an offside. You need to call it straight away as an offside and then find a way that if VAR overturns it because of evidence, they have enough like Hawkeye to turn it over.
Exactly.
is how do you go about trying to fix that situation? Because you need immediacy with that sort of stuff, and that'll create better umpiring, that'll create better refereeing. And generally speaking, when refs get the decisions like that and they automatically do it, they're most of the time right.
Of course they are.
The whole point of VAR is to get rid of the howler. You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh, look, exactly right. And look, I think the massive point there as well to make is, I think a lot of the refs at the moment, they become fearful. Fearful if you put your flag up, you're going to get the abuse from over your back. Well, at the moment, you're not. There's no one there. However, from the game's point of view, is people are going to really lose it. And it's just like, hey, if you think it's outside, raise your flag.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what? Now, that stops the game straight away.
Yeah.
Stops the game straight away. Doesn't matter what else happens there. And then the ref has a look and he goes, no, that's not offside. Free kick. You get a free kick. You get a chance to keep moving forward.
Yep.
So these are parts and parcels of what should be put together. But what needs to be said to these, especially to the lines people, is, guys, hey, if you think it's offside, just raise your flag. If it's not and it's a goal, I personally do not think it should be reviewed.
No.
I don't.
No.
It should be stand as a goal because you didn't raise your flag. If you think it is, done. Yeah. But just for every goal they're going to go straight to VAR now.
Yeah, and this is the problem. You need and also, let's be honest, like a millimetre, 2 millimetres, that to me should not be offside. It should be quite if it's a hand, well then so be it. It's a hand. You can actually see that because you can see that somebody's that forward. But if it's that close, that should be it should be the ref's call, and that's it. And that would stop everything,
And so a classic to that was when Man U played Crystal Palace. Yeah. De Gea was in goal and he stood off his line. Now, that didn't even go to VAR.
No.
Because the ref blew it, just said, no, you got to take it again because you went off your line. And then all of a sudden, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's gone, I want to see that again. And they've shown him and they said, look, he actually went off his line, which is fair enough. De Gea knew that anyway. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? That was called straight away. That's the way it should be. Not VAR first and then make the decision. It should make the decision, go to VAR if you need to.
But that's the thing. People will say, if you can get with that decision, there's both sides of it. I've seen far worse that haven't been called. So if it hadn't been called and it was a save, I don't think people would have complained either. It's just the decision of the ref at the time. They need to be very straightforward with it. And VAR should be in there to call the howler. And if it does that, then VAR is doing a great job because that's the whole point. If somebody's clearly offside, but then VAR's got, no, you better come here because this guy is really offside. He's a good bit offside, and the guy sees it. Then yeah, sure, that I'm happy with. But if it's millimeters, really needs to be there needs to be a ref's call, doesn't there? Well,
look, it does. But then let me give you this scenario. Okay, so all of a sudden, right? Okay, we'll use Marnie. So Marnie he's actually 2 foot to offside, 2 foot, but the linesman doesn't pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
Now everybody else picks it up. He doesn't pick it up. He goes and scores a goal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and this is where sometimes. And I know, look, football's football.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going to get good calls. Sometimes you're going to get bad calls. Yeah. It happens. They're referees. They're human.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, why don't we just keep it human? I would love to actually see a game where they don't actually have VAR. Keep it human. Let it go. Let the ref actually put 2 refs on. One in one half, one in the other.
Mm-hmm.
So they can really, really get together and see how this is going. Because you see some of these penalties, a guy gets nudged in the back slowly. They go to VAR, he goes penalty. Another one gets nudged in the back, VAR, penalty. And it keeps going like that. And that happened a few times over the weekend. But what if it wasn't picked up? Yeah, look, guess what? Go back a few seasons when there wasn't the VAR.
Yeah.
People, they're going, oh my God, but it's all part of the game.
Yeah.
It's part of the game. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. Yeah. But you just have to believe in the game itself. I do think VAR is ruining the game. That's my personal opinion. I'd love to see a season of it without VAR. See how it changes. How
Yeah.
does it change?
See, for me, like, I would love to, it would be interesting to see if they did an experiment in the EPL, 6 months with VAR, 6 months without VAR, and let's see the percentage of errors on both accounts,
Yeah.
with refereeing, see if it actually is making a huge difference. If there's within 2% of difference in those decisions, obviously the refs are doing a good enough job for it not to
Yeah.
be there. However, if you want to appease both sides, you just have VAR as the howler. You know what I mean? That's it. That's
Yeah. I look exactly.
that's why it's there.
Yeah.
If something's blatantly obvious, like if a person in front of somebody and they haven't picked up the offside, I'm happy for that to be called. But if you're going within 2 millimeters, one centimeter, it's just not on, in my opinion as well.
Yeah.
So,
I completely agree with you. That completely agree.
So we'll see. And it's going to be fascinating because I feel like this handball and VAR thing is going to really change a lot of results. And I think it's going it's going to stop. I don't think we'll ever see invincible things that we ever saw with the Arsenal team winning the whole season, winning a game, because you can't. There's games where you have nothing that goes for you, you know what I mean? And VAR is going to be one of these things, right? If it's going to be in there, if you're going to have a bad game, it's going to accentuate you having a really bad game, you know what I mean?
And you will walk off to the toilet after that and throw up because you know what? That's what's just going to happen. And and you can just see it miles away, Matty. It's but then again, the game's evolving, everything's evolving, everything's changing. You need to go with the changes as well. Do you go and do something that worked 5 years ago? Does it work now? The players are quicker now than they used to be. There is so much more money in the game today than there used to be as well.
Yeah.
You look at the transfers. Even they've changed. Everything has changed so dramatically, and there's more money. And they want more from it. And I think this is why, maybe this is where you're starting to see the VAR come into itself a lot more, because it's like, if you have outlaid, okay, look at Chelsea, for example. I mean, like, if I was Frank Lampard, I would be shaking in my boots at the moment because they want to do something, because I can almost guarantee if Chelsea don't end up in the top half, if they don't end up in the top 6 after 30 games, he'll get sacked.
He's not a good enough manager. This is what it's proving to me. Really, he's not a good enough manager. His team is far more talented than Spurs, and they've lost. His team was far more talented even last year than Arsenal. We finished 4 spots lower than them, and we battered them in an FA Cup final. Even Tottenham supporters, when they watch the game, and they have an intense hatred. Even their fan TV base said, "You guys let us down," because Arsenal was just much, much better. And it just proves to me that I don't think he's got the capabilities of making that Chelsea team particularly special. They would have done better having Ancelotti in their team.
Well, and I so agree. And I think a lot of these younger managers that are coming through, your Lampard, your Solskjaer, these guys, they're going to, you know what? They will be there. They will go away. They will probably go and do a couple of European sides in a couple of lower divisions, get more under the belt and come through. The days of a young manager coming through like Sir Alex Ferguson when he actually joined United. And, those days are over. Those days have changed. Your Pep Guardiola, the big question there, if Manchester City don't win this year, if they don't get to the final and win the final of the Champions League, is he going to be there at the end of the year as well? These are going to be some of the questions that are going to be thrown around as this year progresses. That was a big loss, 5-2 down. I reckon there's teams over in Europe at the moment who are sitting there going, well, great. Okay, Man City have lost. Let's start to get contracts written up. Let's start to follow Pep.
Yep.
I can almost guarantee it.
But I mean, he's been there for a long time. He's done a fantastic job. They've come from nothing, even though they've had a lot of money. Money doesn't prove that you're going to do things. And for them to have won England so well over such a consistent time, batter teams, They couldn't imagine that 8-9 years ago. What they've done. I mean, it's phenomenal, and I think he's done a fantastic job. Sure, they might want to win the Champions League, but you need to have a team. It's not about money, in my opinion. You need to have a quality team. Liverpool consistently do it time in, time out. United did it as well when they won their Champions League. They didn't spend millions and millions. They had raw talent that came through the academy. They had raw talent that they found around. Ferguson was very wise with the money that he spent, and he was phenomenal. Wenger did the same thing as well.
That's right. And I think the great thing with that Sir Alex Ferguson was the fact being he was, and this comes back to my harsh judgment on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He stood on the sideline. He gave it to the players. He really got stuck into them. He didn't sit his ass up on a seat watching an iPad with his hand and just frowning. Yeah. You don't manage like that. If you're going to manage like that, go back down to Division 4. Yeah. It's just that's my pet hate with him at this moment. He's just not out there.
Yeah, this is what we were talking about in our chat. Yeah. So I want your opinion. Okay, so the 4 coaches that I want you to judge and who you think's done a phenomenal job over the last year. Okay, so I want you to choose out of Lampard, Nuno, Ole, and Arteta. Who do you think out of those 4, because these are relatively newish coaches in the Premier League, who do you think's done the best job? Who would your top 2 be and why? And what you've seen with what they've done?
I'm going to put Arteta definitely in there because I look at this honestly, and he hasn't had it. Okay, there's been a stability there. There's been stability, and it's about building on that stability, right? Nuno is about the same. Gee whiz, you really got me on this one.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, Ole's done well. I think Ole's done. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he's done really, really well to get to where he is now. And I think to get Manchester United into 3rd spot last season was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Can he go any further? I doubt it. I doubt that. Frank Lampard, Frank's great with what he had, but now to actually go and sell off 3/4 of your team and then bring in what he's brought in, I don't think that's a good move for Chelsea. I really don't. I think he's trying to buy himself a premiership, trying to buy it. It's not going to work. It's going to backfire. And it did this morning in the Carabao Cup. If he wanted silverware, well, he's not getting that. So, yeah, look, I'm definitely Arteta and Nuno.
Yeah, and for me, it's Arteta, not because I'm biased about it. It's that we know how bad we were. We were at a stage last year when Emery made... Well, I didn't think Emery was a particularly bad coach. It's just the players weren't into the system. I don't think he got back with the players that he wanted either. And you could just see this rapid decline. And I mean, when Ljungberg was coaching us at that period of time for those 2 matches, I mean, I was surprised if we were going to be in the top 10. I really, really was, because I could see how demoralising it was. And for what Arteta did sure, he might not have he had a pretty reasonable EPL afterwards. He would have been, if he'd started and the season had started from there, he probably would have been 4th or 5th. That's nothing to write home about. But to do what he did in a cup in 6 months, and I mean, I know it's not the bee's knees, but to win silverware within 6 months with how terrible the squad was. I mean, you have to remember, our captain stormed off the pitch. And started swearing and flipping the bird at all the fans. To get it from that to a trophy-winning team with our main keeper out, injured as well, because we have the most suspect defence, and to win an FA Cup just proves to me that the guy can manage, knows the tactics, he knows what's going on. And that's where I see the difference. Like, I think Ole's done a great job. Do I see him winning silverware, though? Not particularly.
No, exactly. And I agree.
Yeah, and I don't see Lampard either. I don't see him doing that at all. In fact, I see him flopping. So it's going to be fascinating. I'm really intrigued to see who progresses through the Carabao Cup, who's going to do well in the EPL this week, because if you've got Carabao Cup games now and you've got EPL and you have either Champions League or Europa, which these teams, some of them will definitely have because that's just Murphy's Law. We're in for one hell of a treat to see how these teams are going to survive during.
Well, I mean, let's have a look now. I mean, Tottenham Hotspur, they've lost Son Heung-min through a hamstring injury. Now it's going to be lengthy. They don't know how long it's going to be for. So, okay, yep, they've got Gareth Bale. Gareth Bale, he will play against Manchester United, but this will start to test them now. And this is what we're talking about, because if you get one or two injuries, and if they become lengthy injuries, it's going to test your will. Yeah. How far can you take it? And this is where, I suppose, being a manager as well, these guys will look at it and say, okay, we've got one or two injuries. Do we keep going for the Carabao Cup, or do we let that one slide and go for a top 4 premiership berth? You know what I mean? To try and get into the Champions League for next year. What would you do?
Hard, because, well, I've seen it with Arsenal, right? And we were top 4 merchants for 20 years. And there was a huge period of time where we didn't win trophies. But you can't be a top 4 team all the time. It's impossible now with the money in the leagues. So what's more important for a player? Is top 4 a trophy? No, not at all. Not at all in the slightest. I get that Champions League is where it's at. But if you win a cup, it guarantees you Europe no matter what happens. Where you finish in the league, what you do. I mean, for a club during COVID times, you want to be winning a cup, don't you?
No, but I'm just talking about the Carabao Cup, not the FA. The FA Cup's different as far as I'm concerned.
But Carabao also gives you a Europa League berth.
Look, it does. It does. Because I'm going to disagree with you here. From my perspective, you know what? If I had a choice of taking out one or two players because, one's slightly injured, the other one's off injured, and I've got to throw in some more academy players, you know what? If they win, that's great because it gives us a bit more time. If they don't win, I need to make sure I've got my star players that go in to the Premiership. Because, see, let's say, for example, your star striker, he goes into that Carabao Cup, you win it, and I'm not talking about the final. I'm talking about just a quarterfinal. Yeah. He goes in there and absolutely tears his hamstring. Yeah. He's gone for the next 3 months.
Yeah.
Right. And let's say he misses half a season.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you guys were sitting quite well. You're sitting there around about, second, third. Everything's going right. You start to slip. Things starting to slip. Yeah. The pressure starts to come on. Then you get into that the semi-final because you made the second final of Carabao Cup. He's just coming back from injury. These are things. This is what I love about it. Because you've got to look at it, and as I think we've always said all along, Matty, it comes down to depth.
but for me, like when I hear what you're saying, it's like maybe he would have got injured in the next game that he played anyway, because if your hamstring's going to go, right. Weakness in the body. Even if you rest up, if there's a weakness there, it will go in soccer because it's too quick a game. And for me, why I think the cups are so important is that English footy, the pinnacle of playing English footy is to go to Wembley, play in semi-finals, play in finals.
That's right.
And I think players really cherish that because in the EPL, I get it, it's a big trophy and like a lot of clubs want to win it, but there's no final. Right? And a lot of English footballers, they don't play finals unless they get into the cups. And to be in the English squad, you need to learn how to play finals. You need to play at Wembley because when you represent your club, that's where you play, is Wembley. That is the pinnacle of soccer. And anybody that tells me otherwise, that Wembley is not the place to be, I just think...
Oh, yeah. Look, and I agree. I so agree with you there. I truly do. Look, for me, as far as I'm concerned, the FA Cup's completely different.
Yeah.
And I do honestly see that completely different. But then as you said, look, a trophy is a trophy. You got something to put in your cabinet. As we spoke about, you guys have the Community Shield. already wrapped up for this season. So, you know, you've got a piece of trophy, or you've got a piece of silver in your trophy cabinet. That means a hell of a lot for the players that actually play for the club, because, you know, you've won something. You've got something there to show, you know what, we started off really well. You want to keep fighting for it.
Yeah.
You know, I just really curious. And I think after the COVID-19 break last season to come back this season, that short break, I think we're going to see, if the clubs are not managed properly, you're going to see a lot of injuries come through. And I think it will be in the latter half of the season. And I think it's going to make a massive difference to the way how this premiership really finishes. What do you reckon?
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to bring up one more point, and we'll call it a day after this.
Yep.
I was speaking to Phil, who's the co-host of this show, and we were talking about why the Carabao Cup exists, right? And the Carabao Cup exists because it's for 4 tiers of English football that have the chance to be able to win a trophy and to be able to get into Europe. You know, generally speaking, it doesn't happen because the top team or the top team in the top 4 generally wins that comp. Murphy's Law, they've got the money, they do it. However, there's the outsiders, you know, it's a great chance for them to get into Europe. Having said that, what's really important about the Carabao Cup is having spectators. Because for the lower clubs, right, when you see all of the top teams in the 3rd and 4th round, they can bring Premier League teams into their stadiums, pack it out, get money, and get a lot of revenue from getting out of the 3rd or 4th round if they make it. So for Newport County to be in the 4th round, let's say, I mean, that's phenomenal. That's a lot of money. However, the Carabao Cup is a money fundraising thing. It's just like if you have children, for instance, I don't have any, but I know that when I went to school, we had our fundraising chocolate, and you would go in, you'd get money for it, and that money would go into the school. This is what the Carabao Cup is all about. Should it have happened this year when there's no crowd, there's no supporter base, should have it happened in the first place? Because the revenue that's going into those is not going to go in. So this is where we can, Look,
just very quickly on that. I believe it should have.
Mm-hmm.
Because once again, it's about consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to have that cup. Because remember, we just spoke about silverware. We just spoke about trophies.
Yeah.
And you know, this is no different. Even though there's no fans coming through the doors, don't forget, there's still fans out there buying merchandise.
Yeah.
And, you know, if the main striker for Newport County, he scores a winner against Newcastle and they go into the quarterfinals, well, I'll tell you what, people will be buying his merchandise.
Absolutely.
You know, so, look, I do think it still should go ahead. Yeah. You know, it does test the resolve of a lot of clubs, and why not?
Yeah.
You know,
and I just love the fact that with the League Cup, you get that chance to play at Wembley, and I think it's really, really important for quality strike. Even somebody like Aubameyang, if they're making semi-finals, finals, they're playing at Wembley. Yep. That's what they want to do in English footy. They want to play there. There's a lot of prestige. That's why, you know, whenever Arsenal or Man United or any of the big clubs, if they're playing Community Shield at the beginning of the year, they don't care if it's a friendly. They'll still play their guts out because it's a chance to play at Wembley. It's awesome. You know, that's the whole point. And what better way to start a year than to like have a reasonable squads for both the top teams, and you get to play a good game of footy, you know?
Oh, look, absolutely. And I think it's phenomenal. I mean, you look at the games that are coming up, especially tomorrow morning and Friday morning. I mean, you've got Man City play Burnley, Brighton playing Man United, Everton, West Ham, Brentford playing Fulham. That's going to be even a cracking game.
Yeah.
Because Fulham are just having a few problems at the moment. Aston Villa, Stoke, that's going to be another good game. And I think really the cracking game is going to be Liverpool, Arsenal.
It's going to be ferocious. Absolutely ferocious. And you know what's going to be great for Arsenal in this game is they want to finally break their Anfield hoodoo. We haven't won there in 8 years. I mean...
Well, it's about time. Matty, get on to make a phone call. Once we're off here, mate, Get him to do it. Come on.
I know you'd love it. I know all United fans would love it. So
Absolutely.
and it's phenomenal to have you on board. I love your points. Generally, we're right onto it, where we get what's coming out with there. Each supporter has their own personal view. It's fantastic. I love what you say. I think what you're doing at the net is phenomenal. Remember to subscribe to that, because that gives you 14 to 15 minutes every week of the most important information of what's going on throughout the league. A breath of fresh footy. Subscribe to us. It allows people who do their podcasts to really talk about their teams, their observations, what they think of their coach doing stuff. And it's always great to have a Red Devil like Pete on, because he's telling it how it is. We know that Man United is not in a great position. We know that Arsenal's not in a fantastic position, but we want to do things to, get our supporter base to realise what's going on, what the process is, how we can improve, and how we can support our clubs in the best way possible when we can't go and see them live.
Absolutely. And we're going to have a Red Devil time.
We're going to have a Red Devil time. Now, it's going to be fabulous. I can't wait for the next 2 days of soccer. We'll get you on as soon as possible again, Pete. I can't wait. Stay safe.
Exciting time.
Out there, we know that COVID's going rampant all around the world. We see it. We're seeing it in the football. Make sure you stay safe and keep those numbers as low as you can in your community. Stay safe. Wear a face mask. Do what you need to. And keep watching the footy. I'm Matt. That's Pete. We're a breath of fresh footy, and we'll see you very, very soon.
Cheers, guys.